Over at Sam Pardee's Sultai Control will have to face off against straight colorless Eldrazi from Joshua Taylor. And, you know, we do have a team of pros on the left, and you can never really count them as being down in a matchup. But looking across these deck lists, I like most of the matchups on the side of Felecitti, Derczo, and Taylor.
Yep. Abzan has enough interaction to keep the Death Shadow deck in check. Colorless Eldrazi, this deck just has some oppressively powerful starts, particularly when it's on the play. It leads with something like a Sphere of Resistance into a Thought-Knot Seer. It can just win games on turn 2 that way.
You don't, it's not the deck you want to play a fair strategy against.
Right.
So Ted has won the die roll here in Standard. Starts off with a Boat of Energy. It's going to be Attune with the Ether into Servant of the Conduit. So mana ramp for energy, both working in his favor.
Mm-hmm. It's like a Saheeli, and a Hiri, and a Chandra, just full of planeswalkers in hands for Felecitti.
Yeah, has that and the lands to go with him. A Harnessed Lightning to back it up. For Ben, it will be Grim Flayer. Ted will continue on here. Some straightforward plays for him. It's going to be Chandra, kill the Flayer. No, not even kill the Flayer. How about Chandra make mana, Harnessed Lightning the Flayer? That's even stronger.
Takes care of the Flayer, generates energy, and he's building towards that Chandra emblem, which basically wins the game.
Yeah, this is a great curve out on Felicitti's side.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you think that Ben's deck up for black-green is more aggressively oriented. You know, instead of having 4 green Gear Hulks, he has Gnarlwood Dryads and Scrap Heap Scroungers. If he doesn't hold control of the board early on, I feel like his comeback ability is much weaker.
Right. Frequently, the ability of the green-black deck to claw its way into games relies heavily on casting multiple Verdurous Gear Hulks. His stuff is a lot lower to the ground than that.
Yeah, he actually only has 1 Verdurous Gear Hulk in the list. Ben will make another creature, though, on the 3rd turn with Winding Constrictor. The snake is dead if Ted wants it to be. And you were talking about how colorless Eldrazi can have those real stomping draws, right? Mm-hmm. Well, how about 3 minutes into the round, Joshua Taylor winning game 1 over Sam Pardee?
Well played.
You feel like it's one of those stories of just, you know, double temple lands, Thought-Knot, Sphere, and just like, yeah, we're done, we're done.
How'd your round go? My opponent's lands were broken. I had plenty of time to get refreshments.
And speaking of people running their opponents out of the building, Ted looks to be doing the same. Chandra shoots down the snake. Nahiri discards the Traverse. Ted has more lands, more creatures, and 2 more planeswalkers on Ben Stark. And Ben will play Walking Ballista on 2. So it is a removal spell for Chandra in a way, but Ben's not actually going to use it that way. He passes back to Ted.
When the Chandra is below 3 loyalty, it's a little bit less threatening. Also, spending 4 mana in your entire turn to deal with that one is not the most exciting thing.
Chandra will exile the top card. It's Servant of the Conduit. Good enough for him. Ted will cast. Remember, this isn't modern. Nahiri in this deck not able to find a copy of Emrakul. It can, however, get Felidar Guardian now that it's on 8, which would pair very nicely with the Saheeli Rai in his hand.
Yeah, it also just naturally drew a Felidar Guardian here. It's looking like it shouldn't be too difficult for Felicitti to pull off a combo on the following turn.
No, not at all. He is just running away with this one.
He'll need to get the Walking Ballista off the table, but his Chandra is now on 3. So next turn he could use that to deal 4 damage to the Ballista.
Oath of Nissa from Felicitti shows a pair of lands and a Rogue Refiner. Remember, one of those 2 Servants of the Conduit summoning 6 this turn, so he can't actually cast the Refiner. Well, he can if he takes the land, which he did. He takes Ether Hub, but now, of course, the Refiner not in his hand.
Right.
So Ted down has 2 walkers in play, 2 creatures in play. The last 2 cards in his hand are Saheeli Rai and Felidar Guardian. This is a pretty good place to be.
Looks to be debating whether or not he wants to cast Saheeli and Scry here. Scrying's not bad, but I like disguising whether or not he has this Saheeli. If Stark taps out on the following turn and Felicitti gets to have the Chandra up, and that's nice. I imagine that Stark is going to poke the Chandra once with the Ballista, though, to insulate himself against that.
Yeah, interestingly, Ben doesn't know either of the cards in Ted's hand. None of them were drawn, say, with Oath of Nissa. So he doesn't know whether Ted has 1, 0, or, as it turns out to be, 2 combo pieces.
And outside of finding Felidar Guardian, there's not a ton else that Nahiri could do. It could find Cloud Blazer or Ishkana are kind of the big things you'd be looking at. Currently, the graveyard has instant sorcery, so even putting the Planeswalker there does not get him to Delirium. Verdurous Gearhulk for Stark here. Going to pump that Ballista up to a 6. That's going to put it out of Chandra range.
Yeah, that's Ben's turn. He now has the 6/6 Ballista. That can mow things down. It attacks. Ted's going to chump block. So not really out of the woods just yet is Ted Felicitti.
Well, now he can use the Nahiri to -2 to get the Ballista off the table.
Okay, so if he draws a land, he can just win. And yeah, that might happen. Walking Ballista shoots Chandra off the board, shoots Nahiri down to 7.
He doesn't need a land. He has a Servant to the Conduit.
Okay, so this well, he's going to -2 the Nahiri. You're right, Ben. This should be dead right here.
It's looking like it.
Yeah, Ben's going to use the last 2 counters. He'll probably try to kill Servant to the Conduit. That's what he's going to do. In response, Ted makes a mana and then says, I have the combo. Okay, Ben says, walk through it for me. Using the mana off Servant to the Conduit and the lands. Yeah, okay. So we had 5 lands in play and the Servant. So Ben shoots the Servant. Ted says, okay, make a mana off Servant. Tap 3 of my lands. Play Felidar Guardian. Target 1 of my lands. Blink it out, out and back in. 3 lands untapped now. Play Saheeli Rai. Make a bunch of 1/4s.
Yep.
Game 1 goes over to Ted Felicitti, 4-color Saheeli.
2-card combos are fun.
And that game was just brutal. Ted just, every turn, just haymakered Ben very hard.
And Ben had the tools to claw out of a lot of it. But, you know, Felicitti was just heavy enough on Planeswalkers where he could interact very significantly there. And we're going to sideboards. We see on Felicitti's side, he has 3 Dispel, 2 Aether Sphere Harvester, 2 Fumigate, 2 Natural State, 2 Negate, a lot of rhyming cards, 2 Tameo Field Researcher, and a Johnny Unyielding, and a Release the Gremlins. So I like the Fumigates quite a lot because Felicity is almost never actually going to win this game with just regular combat damage. He's basically just kind of on combo or bust here. That one makes a lot of sense. Tameo Field Researcher can push the tempo in his way as well.
Yeah, that's a card that's so powerful, and I almost forgot was in Standard here. Especially against a deck that's kind of playing 1 creature a turn like Ben's. Tameo Field Researcher could be really good here.
And if we're going Planeswalkers, how about a Johnny Unyielding? That one seems mighty good.
If he's going to try to go over the top, I'm expecting him to definitely do that.
Yep. We go over Stark's side. We have 3 Transgress the Mind, 2 Natural State, 2 Natural Obsolescence, 2 Scrap Heap Scrounger, 1 Gonti Lord of Luxury. That's the second copy. There is one in the main deck. 1 Kalitas Trader of Get, a Murder, a Noxious Gearhulk, an Ob Nixilis Reignited, and a Verdurous Gearhulk. So I expect that Stark will try to be a little more interactive, deal with the combo. Transgress the Mind makes a lot of sense to that end. Murder as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering, does Ben try to go bigger as well? You know, he could, say, board up to 4 Scroungers, get even lower, and try to just be fast. Or he can try to play this, you know, haymaker game with Ted.
You could see a change in the dynamic play draw as well, where on the play you can just try to steal a fast game. And on the draw, try to be more interactive, less he gets comboed out. I assume Transgress the Mind is going to be in regardless, no matter what he's trying to do.
All right, so looks like some trouble here for the pro team of Stark, Nass, and Pardee. One of the teams from all over the country. Ben from Florida, Matt Nass, currently in Denver, Sam, California. One thing, though, when you look at all over the country, speaking of limited events in Florida, so Ben Stark might be in this. Yeah, I know. Star City Games has coming up in just over 1 month. It is our next Grand Prix offering. It's Grand Prix Orlando. This is our first limited Grand Prix of the year. You're not going to want to miss it.
On March 24th through the 26th, make plans to be part of Magic the Gathering history when StarCityGames.com proudly presents Grand Prix Orlando. Register by February 24th for the Kaladesh Aether Revolt limited format main event to compete for thousands of dollars in prizes and receive an exclusive playmat featuring Scrapper Champion. Select the 3-day Infinite Challenge package to compete in all challenge events for one low price, while also walking away with the exclusive Scrapper Champion playmat. All Friday challenges are also Grand Prix trials. Come out early and compete for buys in the main event and more chances to claim a Scrapper Champion playmat. Prefer 100 card formats? Register for the Ultimate Commander package to play in 4 Commander On Demand events and take home a Commander vs. Playmat and Ultimate Guard Boulder deck case. And don't forget to come say hello to Grand Prix Orlando's many special guests, including cosplayer Vanessa Martin and an artist alley full of fan favorites, headlined by guest of honor Vulcan Baga. Be part of Magic the Gathering history. Register for Grand Prix Orlando today.
So that is now in just over a month, March 24th through 26th, Grand Prix Orlando. Showing off that it's that interesting, we tend to have with limited GPs, one of them right after the set release and then one at the end of the season. Kind of how fast can you learn the set and how much can you master the set. I like how the dynamics are different between the two.
Right. The beginning of the season one is a lot more inviting for me, where you can try to have just your edge of, I understand mana curves and combat tricks, and I don't want to read a bunch of cards, though. So later in the season, it gets a little tougher for me.
Later in the season, everybody knows what's going on.
Right. You're not going to be able to steal too much. You're not going to be able to be the only person that you play against that knows what the busted uncommon is.
All right,
no one's missing anything.
Game 2 is now underway. Ben Stark versus Ted Felecitti. Ben's on the play this time. Last game, we saw really Ted winning the curve-out war, right? It was Servant of the Conduit, a 2-drop for Ben, and Ted Planeswalker, kill it. Another Planeswalker, kill your thing again.
Yep. And Felicitti expect to be going bigger with his post-sideboard options, both the Sweeper and Fumigate, and just more Planeswalkers.
Yeah, his start last game was a turn 3 Chandra plus play Harnessed Lightning, playing 6 mana worth of cards in the 3rd turn. This time, though, Ben's going to get out in front by virtue of being on the play. Being a copy of Grim Flare. And for Ted, he'll be ready with the removal spell. It's Harnessed Lightning. And actually, mana helping him out quite a bit. Botanical Sanctum into Inspiring Vantage means he has all 4 of his colors online. And we were wondering whether Ben would go big or go small. How about this one here? Gnarlwood Dryad and Scrap Heap Scrounger on turn number 3.
Yep, and this certainly makes sense on the play, just trying to be aggressive and close this game quickly, lest he get comboed out.
Servant of the Conduit and land for Felicitti. He has gone big. You look in his hand and you see a copy of Fumigate that he's boarded in out of the sideboard. Tireless Tracker as well, and Tameo Field Researcher.
Trying to set up the old Birds of Paradise into Wrath of God.
They don't see it coming. Ben's going to swing in. No Delirium just yet. Over on the Legacy match, we saw Joshua Taylor win game 1 in 5 minutes. Now, one of the disadvantages of that is if you play a deck that can win in 5, you can also lose in 10. Sam Pardee evens it up.
Yep, going to 3 over there. When you're playing a lot of prohibitive spells, your deck just ends up being significantly worse on the draw. That much is certainly true.
Nissa for Ben Stark is met by a Tireless Tracker and Clue from Ted Felicitti.
When you can daze the first prison piece, that's a big game.
Yeah, well, when you have a deck like Eldrazi that's this proactive deck, it's like this big hammer, and if it hits you really hard, it either knocks you out, or if they miss with the swing, then that's kind of the whole game.
The moral of the story is that you don't want to be hit with the hammer.
Right, but it's like a hammer that can only hit once. Like in medieval terms, it's like a claymore. It's a gigantic sword that you can barely pick up. The plan is you'd hold it up really high and you'd drop it on them, and it wouldn't matter, if you hit them, it doesn't matter if they're wearing armor, you win. And if you miss, well, it takes like another minute to pick up the sword again, and the guy's you're probably dead in the meantime.
Makes sense.
So basically what we're saying is Colorless Eldrazi is the Claymore of Legacy.
A little more robust tools being used here in Standard. We see Stark ticking up his Nissa Voices in Nikar. A couple plants here, 5 loyalty. That threatens a lot of damage in not too many turns. And Felicitti doesn't have a lot of clean answers to Planeswalkers.
No, more plants being made by Ben Stark. Some more help from his teammates. You saw Sam Pardee force game 3 in Legacy. Matt Nass on Death's Shadow. He wins game 1 over Michael Derczo playing Abzan. And things are going well for the pro team again. Ted's trying to match back up on board. He'll play Tameo Field Researcher and tap down some of Stark's attackers.
Felicitti does have half the combo in his hand. There's a Felidar Guardian hanging out there. The Fumigate as well. We'll see what Stark contributes to the battlefield in the following turn, though it seems likely that Felicitti will be going for that Fumigate before too long.
Wrong format. Yeah, right. So Ted's trying to set up a situation, I think, where he can Fumigate with a Planeswalker still in play.
This Walking Ballista is probably going to stop that from being the case.
Yeah, you see Ben's going to play Walking Ballista on 2, then use Nissa to put a 1/1 counter on all his creatures, moving Ballista up to 3. This is pretty nice, right? It means he can kill Tamiya with Ballista and actually still have the creature left over. That's exactly what he'll do. Plant swings for 1, Ballista shoots for 1. Felicitti may be forced to Fumigate here.
At least there is a real creature on the battlefield now. You know, Fumigate for plant tokens and Scrap Heap Scrounger, not the best. Getting rid of the Ballista, that matters a lot more.
So Felicitti Oath of Nissa into a Rogue Refiner and then does pull the trigger on Fumigate. It will kill a plant token, 2 plant tokens and the Scrap Heap Scrounger. Walking Ballista will get to convert its damage before it dies. But Ben only single black. The Scrounger can't come back this turn.
In terms of battlefield presence, Stark will be maintaining his Planeswalker. He will be able to start recurring that Scrap Heap Scrounger before too long. But that's really not the only game Felicitti is playing.
Right. He actually can lose control of the board because of his ability to combo.
So if you just want to look at this in terms of ABC magic, sure, there's a small win for Stark happening there. But Felicitti got the Walking Ballista off the table, which makes it more likely that he'll be able to actually execute his combo.
And some nice plays here. Felicitti's going to play Felidar Guardian, blinking Oath of Nissa. Remember, if he finds another copy of a Saheeli Rai off it, you can just win. But he finds another Felidar Guardian and adds Servant to the Conduit.
Yeah, the second Felidar Guardian will allow him to blink the Oath again and get 3 cards deeper. Not to mention that Guardian blocks just the base 3/2 Scrap Heap Scrounger. Of course, Stark's Nissa Voices Zendikar can make that into a 4-power creature and change that equation.
Yeah, Stark's going to reload by bringing back his second Scrounger, but now he just has a 2-card hand. He knows he's 1 card away, a Saheeli Rai away from being comboed out, and it's possible because Ben only has 2 cards that Ted is just simply not going to play around anything. If
Light on cards, and also Stark is starting to threaten a lot of damage.
This is a neat one. Ben swings with the 2 3/2s. He could have made them into 4 3s to deny that block. Instead, what he's going to do is just lets the block happen, then traverses for Walking Ballista and casts it. You can tell he's pretty concerned, it seems, about getting comboed out here.
This way he'll be able to have the Ballista on the battlefield and use the Ballista to clean up the Guardian.
Ballista finishes off Felidar Guardian. Nissa makes another plant. Go back to Felicitti, Harness Lightning the draw. And it is Rogue Refiner for Ted. Draws him into a mountain. He's got Felidar Guardian, Harness Lightning as his last 2 cards. But with that Walking Ballista on the table, it's going to be hard for Ted. Well, I guess it seems like what his play might be is try to end step, kill the Ballista, untap, play Guardian, flicker Oath, get Saheeli combo, hope nothing goes wrong.
Yep.
He probably can survive a turn. Looks like Harness Lightning is going to be cast here on the Ballista. Ben will shoot.
That'll stop Ben from getting more counters on the Ballista and getting some free shots in with that one.
Sure, Ben draws back up to 2 cards. The question I think in Ted's mind is, does Ben have a removal spell or any way of interacting with the combo? No, but he has Winding Constrictor. That plus Nissa is going to give the entire team 2 1/1 counters.
That's going to put Ted basically on a 2-turn clock here.
Yeah, Ben has 1 card left in hand. We'll see if it's removal. A big swing by Stark. Ted will crack a clue. Does he hit Saheeli? Not yet. He hits Oath of Chandra.
That one's not really going to play anymore.
And then it will be a murder cast from Ben. He did have the removal spell, but in fact, he certainly has the removal spell, enough so that it's not a 2-turn clock, it's a 1-turn clock.
That's even better.
And Ben Stark now wins the game. He's evened it up with Ted.
All right, yeah, going to 3 here.
Yeah, and it's it wasn't too long ago we were saying, you know, Felecitti, Derczo, and Taylor winning a pair of games, but you show just the difficulty in beating a triple pro team is that, sure, Ted's team won the first 2 games, but then they lost the next 3.
That'll put him in the hole. Yeah, so just any 2 games on the side of Stark, Nass, and Pardee will equate to a round win here. Looks like down in the Legacy match, you see Nass and Pardee conferring. It might be in a tight spot against the Eldrazi. Taylor certainly looks like he's confident with his position.
So no matches completed just yet. We have the Legacy players in game number 3. Modern players are shuffling for game 2. Standard players shuffling for game 3. So it looks like the murder has come in out of the sideboard for Ben Stark. Outside of that, though, Ryan, we didn't really see any of this high end, and it doesn't look like we even saw Transgress the Mind from Ben.
Yeah, didn't see a single Transgress cast there. It's certainly true with the green-black deck that the Walking Bliss on the battlefield insulates you plenty against the combo. It's also the case that with all these Oath of Nissas happening, your Transgress doesn't necessarily disrupt Ted as much as you would like it to.
Yeah, certainly seemed like Walking Ballista was Ben's go-to card when it came to dealing with the combo. He'd rather tap out for something than hold up mana.
Yep, being able to traverse for that one makes it pretty reliable that he's going to be able to have it.
One thing we did say from Ted Felicetti's 4-color Saheeli deck was the debut of the new energy counter. We've had that in all of our opens this here season in Season 1. Now, this was Jacob Barr, winner of the Season 3 Invitational last December in Atlanta. Winning with the Aetherworks Marvel deck, he got to have his likeness on a card and selected, well, the energy token that won him the championship. You can now have him of Team Card Hoarder with his Spirit Bomb and his Polar Bears. It's given away at all of our opens and classics here in Season 1 on the tour. Also, it ships with orders of at least $5 from StarCityGames.com, so a lot of chances to get one of these tokens here.
You know, I think my favorite thing about this token is the sweatbands on his wrists.
I don't think I've ever seen Jacob wear those.
Oh, I certainly have not.
So Ryan, I know you're the authority here. So if I'm summoning a Spirit Bomb, did I wear the athletic wristbands?
Yeah,
that's part of being a fight.
Yeah, summoning the energy of the animals of the earth is comparably exhausting to a set of tennis.
Sure. Goku wears them, right? Am I on the right?
That's the right character.
Okay, it's the right character. All right.
I do not believe he wears them. Maybe he does.
Well, Goku probably doesn't need those, you know.
Who knows? That's not the kind of thing I pay attention to.
All right.
So, like, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I apologize if you care.
Game 3 going to be between Ted and Ben. Now, Ted is going to go to a 6-card hand here. We did see a good curve out from Ted Felicietti game 1. On the play, certainly he has the chance to do that again.
Servant into turn 3 Planeswalker is a mighty powerful curve.
Though what we did, I think, learn from game 2 is that on the board it can be pretty hard for him to get this match. Now, if you aren't familiar with Ted Felicietti, understandable. He really came the breakout player on the tour from Season 3 of last year. Another one of the upstate players. He's from not Sugarloaf, New York, how about Sugarloaf, Pennsylvania. 32-year-old, 3 open top 8s and an open win. All of that coming really in the last 6 months.
Yeah, been very consistent as of late on the tour.
And you see him now teaming up with other players like Michael Derczo and Josh Taylor, now making a deep run here as they are finding themselves at table 1 of day 2 of our first team open. Certainly they have their hands full in this match, though. Playing against Hall of Famer Ben Stark. And he will keep on 6 with a scry to the bottom. We are going to be underway for game number 2. We'll start on Oath of Nissa. Finding Felidar Guardian. Almost missed there off it.
That would be unfortunate.
Played a lot of Oaths in Modern. I can't tell you the number of times. I'm sure it's a confirmation bias thing. because mathematically there's no reason for it to be this way. But the number of times that the first 2 cards I see are things I can't take off oath, and then the third one is something I can, it's just like, you know, you skip a little beat there. You're like, oh no, it's going to be, okay, I'll take this. Turn 2 Grimflare from Ben Stark gets a turn 3 Rogue Refiner from Felecitti.
I've missed on a number of Augur of Bolus in my time.
Yeah, kind of me too, but then you just resto it, and like a 1/3 was okay anyway. I remember in that standard, I used to tell people I was going to play Seacoast Drake in my deck. It was a 1/3 flyer for 2 at common, because at least it flew.
It doesn't let you look at the bottom 3 cards of your deck, though. It's all upside.
I got tilted enough that for FNM 1 week, I ran Seacoast Drakes instead. You're like, why are you playing that card? Like, it does something. It's wrong, by the way. So you should probably play Augur, or neither of them. But
neither seems absolutely correct.
Now, interesting here from Ben Stark, he had the option to offer a trade of Grimflare with Rogue Refiner, and he actually declines on it.
You would much prefer to actually connect with this Grimflare. Felidar Guardian makes it a bit tougher.
Yeah, Guardian cast from Ted, and this is what I love about the Guardians in this 4-color deck, as opposed to Jeskai Saheeli, is Ted's Guardian flickers Oath of Nissa. It's just a pretty real card when it does that.
Think about the green-black deck. It has plenty of ways where if you just wait a little bit of time, you can make it so that the Grimflare matters. In Stark's list, you know, he does only have the 1 Verdurous Gearhulk, so a little less so than the builds that are playing a lot, but he has access to plenty of removal spells that can kind of mess up this board a little bit.
Double swing from Ben Stark, double block from Ted Felicitti.
Here, attacking with mana means if he has a removal spell, he can use it on the Rogue Refiner before damage, and then actually just connect with his 2/2 Trampling Grimflare if he desires.
Looks like he'll just let the trade happen and play a replacement Grimflare. We go back to Felicitti. And his hand's kind of an interesting one. He's got 3 lands, Oath of Nissa, Ishkana, and Rogue Refiner. So he's got an Ishkana with really not much of a Delirium going.
He's getting there.
Yeah, he is now. He lost the Rogue Refiner, played a 2nd Oath of Nissa to get enchantment into the graveyard. Found Chandra. He can cast her this turn as well.
I find it's pretty easy to get Chandra into a graveyard. Whether you want it there or not. If you want it there or not, that's where it usually ends up.
Chandra, -3, shoots down the Grimflare from Ben. Now, if he wants to, the Chandra is dead. You see Ben has a copy of Hissing Quagmire in play. So that plus Scrounger would take care of the Planeswalker. But he's got other plans. He'll fatally push away the Felidar Guardian.
That makes things even easier.
Creature Planeswalker enchantment now in the yard for Ted. Or soon to be Planeswalker. All it would take us him to draw an Evolving Wilds, and he can have Nishkana and Spiderlings.
Harness Lightning as well would get him there. He would need the Wilds to be the next turn.
Right. Go back to Ben Stark.
A sorcery and a 2 with the Ether would get him there as well.
Transgress the Mind. Well, how about it doesn't matter? We see Rogue Refiner, land, Ishkana. Ben did bring in the discard spell. It's the first time we've seen it, and it is a great time for him to play it.
Certainly.
And Ben doing a good job of just being surgical here with, you know, declining to trade a 2-drop early on, then trading it later, now transgressing, you know, just like he's picking these really strong windows, you know, when to actually cast a card like Transgress. While he had good plays on the board, he wasn't doing it. And because now he's waited to a point where he still gets the card he would have wanted. Like, say he plays this on turn 2, right? I think he still gets the same card. Probably takes Ishkana both ways. But this way he got to play to the board early and Transgress later for full value.
Transgress also just generally gains more power if you wait a few turns on it. When your opponent's casting Oath and Nissas, it has other cantrips in the deck. They're going to see more cards. If you wait a little bit of time, it's more likely you'll be able to hit the thing that actually matters.
Deciding, does it Rogue Refiner? Or is it the Ishkana he wants to take? I'm surprised this one's close. I had assumed he would go for the Ishkana, which he does.
Just the fact that Felicitti is off Delirium makes you consider going for the Rogue Refiner instead.
Well, Harness Lightning is the draw for Felicitti, so he will have Delirium now. Ben played a second Scrounger, so for Ted, it's Rogue Refiner, drawing him into Servant to the Conduit. He'll play both. And pass. Ted, this is a dangerous spot for him, though, Ryan. He doesn't seem to be able to get control of the board, and he's not close to comboing.
Right. He has the mana he needs, but he needs both combo pieces here, and his creatures, they only trade, quote-unquote, trade with Scrap Heap Scrounger. That one just keeps coming back.
And Ben, fully aggressive. Here's a Winding Constrictor, a draw from Ted. Now, one thing you have to watch out, though, with an Oath of Nissa in play and 7 lands, it is possible for Ted to win off a completely empty board.
Yes, you can Felidar Guardian, blink the Oath, then go find Saheeli with the Oath.
In one of the more disgusting turn of events.
And Felicitti does have that Harness Lightning, though Stark committed 2 Winding Constrictors on the previous turn. That one's not looking to be terribly effective.
No, I mean, there's a lot of cards that give 1/1 counters here, and at this point, they're all monster draws for Ben.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Nissa right here would be a game ending. Goodness. Give my guys my 3 1/1 counters.
A 4-mana Walking Ballista would make it extremely difficult for Felicitti to ever execute the combo.
So swings with the Scroungers. Ben commits a 3rd Constrictor. He actually only has 1 card left in his hand, but he does have the ability to recur all of these Scroungers. It's kind of like death by 2 drops. And for Ted Felicitti, it's a bunch of basic forests. He needs that Felidar Guardian.
Yes.
He's got to do it before Ben finds a 2-mana kill spell or a Nissa. I mean, he might already even have them.
Felicitti really doesn't even have that much time with what's already happening.
5 damage in, set Felicitti down to 9.
As things
Ben will
stand,
pass, yeah.
Stark has a Scrap Heap Scrounger in his graveyard and a Hissing Quagmire at the ready, so he could attack for lethal on the following turn.
Oath of Nissa from Ted. He has 2 good options here. Tireless Tracker and Nahiri the Harbinger.
Both of them are basically just going to remove 1 threat.
We'll go with the Tracker. He does have an untapped basic in his hand, so he plays Tracker, plays basic Forest.
The upside is that Tracker replaces itself.
Yeah, gets a clue, and looks like that's what he'll do. Immediately crack the clue up to a 4/3. Draws Rogue Refiner. He's actually 1 short on that. Mm-hmm. And you see Ben back to this whole death by 2 drops plan. Scrap Heap Scrounger out of the graveyard. He's had a Verdurous Gearhulk in his hand this whole game. So he's had these like 2 or 3 Winding Constrictors in play. Certainly if Ben could have hit land 5, this game would have been easy.
Right.
But he may not need it. He's still actually ahead.
Still in a solid position.
Swings both Scroungers. Ted down to 3. He may have 1 more turn. Tireless Tracker on Ben's side and Evolving Wilds. Gets him a clue and he'll say go. All right, can Ted put together the combo? It is likely good if he can find it.
I think he picked up Botanical Sanctum. That one doesn't help.
No, that's going to come to play tap, so that doesn't do much of anything. Rogue Refiner is the start. Botanical Sanctum in hand. He draws a basic Forest, so he'll play that, get a clue, crack the clue. Can he draw something? He draws Ether Hub. No. No, he just has more lands. There are 3 3-power attackers on Ben's side and only 2 top blockers on Ted's. If Ben makes the full swing, I believe Ted is dead here. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the Gearhulk in his hand. It's going to make him real dead.
Right.
See, Ted, a lot of redraws. In the end, though, 9 lands in play and 2 in hand. This is one of the things that the 4-color Saheeli deck, Ryan, is I've seen this happen before, is it can be prone to flooding.
The deck only plays 21 lands, but it's also playing Attune with the Ether, Oath of Nissa, stuff like that that just
Servant
finds
to the Conduit,
lands.
which is kind of a land.
Right.
And Ben, he's going to Gearhulk this one in. There's the play and the handshake. It is Ben Stark taking the first match of the round, 2-1 over Ted Felicitti.
It looks like our legacy match may have reached a conclusion as well.
Yeah. Well, And yeah, Sam Pardee winning that one with Sultai Control. So in 3, both Ben Stark and Sam Pardee starting out in a 1-0 hole with losing game 1. And from there was no errors on their side. Ben Stark, Matt Nass, Sam Pardee winning the next 5 games to get 2 matches and the round.
Yeah, they let you play 3 games, and team events let you play 3 matches. So small deficit, they overcame it, and another win up for Stark, Nass, and Pardee.